literally and figuratively. Dogs open doors. So, would you like to see how the quilt comes together?
Yes.
Well, if you may know us, or if you do know us, you may know that this is going to use the tube technique, which of course means the strip tube ruler. Yay! So first of all, let's talk about the strips. The strips are separated into two colors. One color is blue, various collection of blue 2.5-inch prints, and the other color is yellow and green. Okay, so that's two colors, but let's just consider yellow and green sort of one color. Yeah, well, you know, a yellowy green, you know what I'm saying. So like the yellows and greens are kind of in one pile and the blues are in another pile. In addition, we have two accent fabrics. One is blue. It's a nice, vibrant royal blue. And the other is white. So can you find that blue and the white in the quilt? Okay, so these are the accent fabrics, the white and then the blue. Every block will have both the white and the blue. So first thing you do is you have your strips separated into those colors, blue and yellow and green. And those two colors, blue and yellow and green. So for the yellow and green strips, we're going to place the blue in the center and sew strips together. Press in one direction. Now for the blue, we're going to put the white accent fabric. So you guys know that this is the accent fabric, right? This is also an accent fabric. Now you can imagine it in different colors, pick different accent fabrics. When you pick that accent fabric, it will sort of define the block. It will be in every block, so you either want it to pop out like the blue does, or you want it to recede like the white does. You want it to be a background, but you want contrast. You want it to be distinct. So now we have, this is a half strip up here. You will use full strips. I think you can use half strips for more variety. The pattern will tell you. Two of these together, right sides together. So the seams nest, and then you will sew a 1/4-inch seam up along the top and a 1/4-inch seam down the bottom to make a tube. I have one made by the magic of television. You can't see the seam because it's white. 1/4-inch up one side and down the other to make the tube. Now we're going to take the strip tube ruler. If you don't have one by now,
What's wrong?
run, don't walk to your local quilt shop and get one of the strip tube rulers. You're going to place the line that the pattern says on the bottom stitching line and cut up and down to cut out a triangle. Okay, now if you've been here, you know what comes next. Are we ready? My in-studio audience. The triangle will look a little bit like this. Do you follow me?
Yes.
So you pull that triangle away from your tube and you open it up and you get a diagonally pieced square.
Brilliant.
That's all right. That's pretty good. Good job. So there's your diagonally pieced square. That, in fact, is your block. We're going to make a bunch of those blocks and then twist and turn them. To make the second block out of the same tube, you'll place your ruler on the top stitching line. Top stitching line. You'll cut out a triangle. They will be the same angle. Make fresh cuts. You want fresh cuts because you want your second block to be as accurate as possible. You don't want it to duplicate any wiggles you might have had on the first block. So fresh cuts will get you a nice square block. By the way, the measurements of the strip tube ruler are square measurements. So whatever you cut, you are cutting a square of that measurement. This is not a triangle, even though it's a triangle ruler. It cuts squares. Mind-blowing? It's a square. It's half a square, which is a triangle. Very good. Okay, your $10 tip. You can pay me on the way out. Are you ready? This is an awkward cut. You can probably do one side without issue, but the second side, your blade doesn't go that way, your hand doesn't go that way. But you need to cut off of that stitching line. There's no getting around that. So instead of flipping your ruler, flip your strip set. So now what was the top stitching line now is the bottom stitching line, and you can place your ruler on the bottom as you did before. Yes?
Yes.
Worth the $10?
Yes.
Rick will be collecting it.
I can use a rotating mat.
You can use a rotating mat too. That's another good suggestion. Although I will say rotating mat has that tail. So as you flip that rotating mat around, if you're using full width of fabric, you'll knock over something. I will. I'll knock over something. Up, down, up, down, up, down. Now this quilt is set on point. So that means everybody look at the quilt and then tilt your head. Do you see the square?
Yes.
Here's one complete square. Here's another complete square. And notice that the blues and the whites offset, except when you come to the corners, that then the blues, two blues come together. And so here, let's look at the first row. This is the first row. This is one block in the first row. On each side of it is a triangle. That's a setting triangle, so we still have to make those. Here's the next row. Again, it starts with a triangle. There are your blocks, and there's your triangle. Here's your third row. You following me?
Yes.
Here's your fourth row. Now, look, it ends.
Yes.
That's your corner setting triangle. So these will go on very last. This will finish off the edge so that it's square and not your corners are cut off, which could be a cool design. One of these days I will make that quilt. So let's talk about these setting triangles. You may notice, or you will now, every one of them has blue.
Yes.
We finish every setting triangle with blue in the center. So in order to make that setting triangle, we use the same strip set, only we won't sew it into a tube. And we'll cut out a triangle by using our strip tube ruler. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. Ha-ha, this is why you came. Instead of putting the ruler on the bottom stitching line, we are actually going to find the measurement the pattern says and put it on the top seam. This will allow the same amount of space from each of these triangles so that when two come together, they will match. Setting triangle, if you don't know, needs to be larger than the square because of that diagonal, because of that triangle seam. And I don't know what the formula is. I probably should. I probably shouldn't tell you I don't know. But we always try to figure it out. I'm sure there is a formula, and I always go a little bit bigger. But you will place that measurement on the top stitching line and then cut your triangle. You might have to extend beyond the ruler. So the top stitching line right here is right here between these two seams. So you'll place a measurement there and then cut. That will get you the triangle, the correct size that you need to make your setting triangle. Yellow, 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 and then blue in the center. Now, when you put those blocks together, it will be big enough, just big enough. And if you cut off a little bit at that point, it's okay. Don't worry, I gave you permission. But the big thing is, when this setting triangle hits this block, you will create that L, which duplicates all the way through the quilt as you rotate your blocks. Now, you don't have to set it the way we set it. I love the effect. I love the optical effect. But you could do whatever you want. It's your quilt. I have never arrested anybody for doing something different. I don't plan to now. So you'll sew your rows together, triangle, block, triangle, triangle, block, 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 triangle. And then at the very end, you add your corner setting triangles. Whenever we set it on point, set a quilt on point, we then have you trim the edges because for whatever reason, they're never even. They just aren't. So we have you trim. And then add border 1 and then add border 2. Notice we use the same fabric as border 2 in those corners just to carry the pattern all the way through. And that's how you make this quilt. Not too bad, right?
No.
Can you imagine it in a different color?
You have it.
I don't, actually. You have to imagine it. You're so sweet to laugh. So because this is a special project that is focused on the CCI organization, which trains dogs, one of the sizes that we have in the pattern, one of the 5 sizes. 5? Is it 5 sizes?
6.
6. We have 6 different sizes. One of them is baby/pet size. So here is the pet size quilt. This is for a dog that likes to take up a lot of room because it's not a small quilt. And we did this in flannel.
Oh,
Isn't that fun? Same design. Lots of different flannel prints, 2 accent fabrics, set on point, radiating out. And this is just way too fun not to share. Are you ready?
oh, isn't that cute?
Yeah. So our last strip club group suggested that everybody make one of these and donate them to the organization. So I'd be happy to collect pet-sized quilts for the organization. Yellow and blue would be wonderful, wouldn't it, Cindy?
Yes, that would be awesome. We would love that.
So if you would like to make a yellow and blue quilt out of this pattern, this size, you don't have to do borders because it is pretty large. And you'd like to bring it to us, we'll get it to the organization and it will go to a good home. Cindy travels with a quilt of her own that she'll put under the dogs as a placemat, right? Did you call it a placemat?
Yes, and I left talks in the car today, but generally, little quilts for dogs are awesome ways to test patterns.
She said little quilts for dogs are an awesome way to test patterns. Are they discriminating? Or colors? Dogs don't care. The pets always love the new one that you're working on anyway, right? Cats and dogs alike. Or the one you're ironing. Though especially the one you're laying out on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And you got the blocks just right, and then little paws go across them. So any questions on True Companion? Colors in honor of CCI and the name, True Companion, in honor of the organization. Yes?
Not specifically the pattern, but you said a tube,
It's a tube. We make a tube.
the ruler though?
Mhm.
What's the difference between that ruler and a regular triangle ruler?
What is the difference between this ruler and a regular triangle ruler? The biggest difference is the measurements. This will give you a square when you're done. Triangle rulers will give you a triangle. And that doesn't sound like, I mean, it's the same shape, but it's the size that matters. So these measurements down the edges, this one goes all the way up to 9.5 inches. You can cut up to a 9.5 inch square block. Now many triangle rulers that are this shape, they will get you measurement for a finished triangle size, but this will get you a finished measurement for square size. That is the biggest difference. All of the patterns have directions to use a general square-up ruler also, but if you've used a square-up ruler, you know that it works. The strip tube ruler works better because it has the lines that go the right direction that you can place directly on the seams. A square-up ruler, the lines will go a different way. You have the right measurements down the side, but the lines aren't conducive to nice cutting using the tube technique. So that's the difference. This is a square measurement, even though it's the shape of a triangle. Any more questions? Okay, my friends, if there's no more questions today, we'll wrap this up and then we'll do another one next month for a pattern that uses 2.5 inch strips. We have seen many of Cindy's puppies come through, and you have seen Cindy here, especially on the Monday Strip Club, for many years. I can name 3 or 4, and every time it gets close where she's about to turn over the leash, part of me hopes that the dog doesn't make it and needs to find a good home. I've got a good home. These are such loving creatures and such loving breeds. They just kind of lean into you to be petted. Oh, so wonderful. And to think that these dogs will go on to change people's lives. This is why we are behind the organization, and hope you guys are too. If you're here in the shop with us, it's not just the pattern. It's anything that you spend today. Portion of proceeds will go to CCI. And also when we launch this on the website, and we have that one day where we sell the kits And so we'll also encourage our web friends. A portion of those proceeds will go towards CCI. And if you want to do your part, there's a donate button, and there's Dog Fest coming up. Dog Fest is November 15th. Am I right? 14th, November 14th. It's at Liberty Station. Bring your canine friend and a leash and walk about. She's handing out postcards. Liberty Station is just a lot of fun. That's any excuse to hang out there. That's so cool. And with four-legged